The mail-order bride feared rejection until a little girl whispered, "Can you be my mommy?" Elena felt her heart beating faster as the airplane wheels touched the tarmac. The sound of the landing was like a drum in her chest, echoing all the fears and excitement she had carried for months. She took a deep breath, clutching the small carry-on bag that held the few things she had brought from her home country. Every item reminded her of the life she had left behind, her parents' laughter, the small apartment she had shared with her younger sister, the narrow street she had walked every day, and now all of that felt far away, like a story from someone else's life. She pushed the door open and stepped into the bright sunlight. The air felt different here, warmer in a way that was both comforting and strange. People hurried past with their cars and luggage, talking in a language that was almost like hers, yet not quite. Every sound, every movement reminded her that she was far from home, in a place where everything was new. She felt a knot of worry in her stomach. Would she be accepted here? Would she ever belong in this family she had agreed to join? Elena had always known she was different from the other girls she grew up with. She had learned to be independent early in life, working small jobs to help her family and dreaming quietly of a life that felt bigger than the narrow streets of her town. When she first heard about mail-order brides, she was skeptical. The idea of leaving her home for a stranger seemed impossible. But over time, she realized that she wanted more than just survival. She wanted connection, a family, and perhaps even love. And so, after months of conversations, forms, and careful planning, she had agreed to take the step that would change her life forever. As she walked through the small airport, Elena's eyes searched for the man who was supposed to be her husband. She had seen his picture, exchanged messages with him, and spoken on the phone. But seeing him in person was different. She worried that he might not like her, that she might not meet his expectations, or that she might fail in some way. These thoughts raced through her mind as she spotted a tall man holding a sign with her name. "Elena?" he asked, his voice friendly but slightly nervous. Yes, she replied softly, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay calm. He smiled, a little awkwardly, and held out his hand. "Welcome, I'm Michael. It's good to finally meet you." Elena shook his hand, noticing the warmth in it. It was a small comfort, but it was enough to ease her nerves slightly. Michael led her to a car waiting outside, and as they drove through the quiet streets of the town, Elena looked out the window at houses that looked like they belonged in a storybook. Everything seemed so clean and orderly, so different from the busy chaos of her own city. She felt a mix of wonder and fear. When they arrived at the house, Elena felt her chest tighten again. It was a modest home, but it had a charm that made her heart ache with longing for a place to belong. Michael opened the door and gestured for her to step inside. As she did, she noticed the little details, the neatly arranged furniture, the smell of fresh flowers on the table, the pictures on the wall showing a small girl with bright eyes and a shy smile. And then she saw her, a young girl peeking from behind the doorway, clutching a small stuffed animal. She looked at Elena with wide, cautious eyes, as if trying to figure out whether this stranger would stay or leave. Elena froze for a moment, unsure how to act. She had never been around children before, and the thought of being accepted by someone so young made her anxious. She bent down slightly and gave a gentle smile. "Hello," she said softly. "I'm Elena." The girl didn't answer at first. She just watched, her grip tightening on the stuffed animal. Elena felt a pang of sadness. She knew that the little girl had probably been through a lot, and she worried that she might not be able to connect. She had imagined this moment for months, hoping for warmth and welcome, but reality felt uncertain. Michael noticed the hesitation and knelt beside his daughter. "This is Elena," he said. "She's going to be living with us now." The girl's eyes flicked to him, then back to Elena. Finally, she whispered, "Hi." Elena's heart lifted slightly. It was a small word, but it was a beginning. She nodded and whispered back, "Hi. It's nice to meet you." For the rest of the day, Elena tried to find her place. She unpacked her few belongings, arranging them carefully in the small room she would call her own. She watched Michael prepare dinner, noticing the gentle way he moved around the kitchen, and she felt a faint hope that perhaps this could work, but fear still lingered. What if the little girl never accepted her? What if Michael realized that she didn't belong here? As night fell, Elena sat on her bed, looking at the pictures on the wall of the small girl and her father. She thought about her own family far away and the life she had left behind. A tear slipped down her cheek. She whispered into the quiet room, "I hope I can be enough." The next morning brought new challenges. The little girl was shy, watching Elena from a distance, testing her carefully. Every smile Elena offered was met with cautious curiosity. She tried talking to the girl, asking about her favorite games and stories, but each answer was short and hesitant. It was clear that trust would have to be earned slowly, and Elena realized that patience was more important than she had imagined. Despite the fear and uncertainty, there were small moments of hope. The little girl followed Elena into the kitchen to watch her cook, asking questions quietly about the food. She laughed softly at Elena's clumsy attempt to flip a pancake. Each of these moments was tiny, but to Elena they felt like victories. She began to understand that family was not something that happened immediately. It was built slowly, through small acts of kindness, attention, and care. By the end of the first week, Elena felt a cautious optimism. She had survived her first few days in this new home, and she had seen glimpses of the little girl's curiosity and warmth. She knew there would be hard days ahead, days when fear and doubt would return, but she also knew that this was the beginning of something meaningful. For the first time since arriving, she allowed herself a small smile, whispering to herself, "Maybe I can do this." Elena went to bed that night feeling tired but strangely content. She thought about the long road ahead, about the trust she would need to build with this little girl, and about the life she was starting to create in this new country. She closed her eyes, holding on to a fragile hope that perhaps, in time, this family could become her home, and she could become someone the little girl could call family. And in that quiet room, as the city slept around her, Elena realized that this journey was not just about leaving her past behind. It was about opening her heart to something new, something uncertain, but something that could grow into love. The next morning, Elena woke up to the soft sound of birds outside her window. The sunlight streamed in, making the room feel warm and bright. She rubbed her eyes and tried to shake off the nervousness that always came with a new day in a new country. Today felt important. She wanted to make a good impression, not just on Michael, but also on the little girl who had quietly observed her since the day she arrived. Elena dressed carefully, choosing a simple blouse and skirt. She wanted to look friendly and approachable, but not overwhelming. As she stepped out of her room, she heard the faint sound of small footsteps. Turning, she saw the little girl standing in the hallway, clutching her stuffed animal, her big eyes watching Elena with a mix of curiosity and caution. "Good morning," Elena said softly, kneeling down to the girl's level. "Did you sleep well?" The little girl tilted her head, considering the question. "Yes," she whispered. "You?" Elena smiled. "I slept okay. Thank you for asking." She felt her heart lift slightly. This small exchange, though simple, felt like the first thread connecting them. Breakfast was quiet at first. Michael was cheerful, trying to make Elena feel comfortable, while the little girl ate slowly, stealing glances at Elena from time to time. Elena noticed how attentive Michael was with his daughter. He asked her questions about school, her favorite subjects, and what she wanted to do that day. It made Elena realize that this family had a strong bond already, and that her role was going to require patience and care. After breakfast, Michael suggested they take a walk around the neighborhood. Elena agreed, hoping it would give her a chance to spend time with the little girl outside the walls of the house. The girl hesitated for a moment, then slowly walked beside Elena, holding her hand lightly. It was a small gesture, but to Elena, it meant the world. As they walked, Elena tried to start a conversation. "Do you like school?" she asked gently. The little girl nodded. "I like reading stories. And painting." Elena's face lit up. "That's wonderful. I love painting, too. Maybe one day you can show me your favorite drawing." The girl looked at her silently, then nodded. Elena realized that trust could not be rushed. Every interaction mattered. Every small word and gesture built a foundation for a relationship that could grow stronger over time. They walked past houses with colorful gardens and neatly trimmed lawns. The neighborhood was quiet, except for the occasional bark of a dog or the sound of children playing in the distance. Elena felt a strange mixture of comfort and unease. Everything looked safe and welcoming, yet she was aware that she still felt like an outsider in this new world. Back at home, Elena tried to help with small chores. She washed dishes, tidied the living room, and even attempted to help Michael prepare lunch. The little girl watched her closely, sometimes joining in by handing over a spoon or wiping the table. Elena noticed that when she treated the girl as helpful and capable, rather than shy and fragile, the child seemed to respond more openly. It was a lesson Elena would remember. Respect and encouragement could build bridges faster than any words of reassurance. In the afternoon, Elena suggested they read a story together. She picked a small picture book from the shelf and opened it on the floor. "Would you like to read with me?" she asked. The little girl hesitated but then nodded, sitting close. Elena began to read aloud, using different voices for each character. The girl's eyes widened with interest, and soon she was leaning closer, pointing at pictures and whispering her thoughts. Elena felt a warmth she had not expected, the sense of being included in someone's world, even if it was just for a short time. After the story, they decided to do some drawing. Elena gave the girl some crayons and a blank sheet of paper. "Draw whatever you like," she said. The little girl smiled faintly and began to draw. At first her lines were hesitant, but as Elena sat beside her, quietly encouraging and sharing her own doodles, the girl's confidence grew. They laughed together when their drawings looked funny, and Elena felt a surge of hope. Maybe this was the beginning of something real, a bond that could grow stronger day by day. Evening came slowly. Michael returned from work and noticed the small connection forming between Alan and his daughter. He smiled, saying nothing, but Elena saw the relief and approval in his eyes. It was encouraging to know that she was not only accepted as an adult joining the household, but was also gradually earning the trust of the child who mattered most. Dinner that night was calm and pleasant. The little girl spoke more than she had all day, telling stories about school and her friends. Elena listened carefully, asking questions and laughing softly at the funny moments. She felt her anxiety begin to fade, replaced by a sense of belonging she hadn't felt since arriving. Later, as a little girl got ready for bed, she came to Elena and handed her a small drawing she had made. "For you," she whispered. It was a simple picture, stick figures holding hands under a bright sun, but to Elena it was priceless. She took the girl's hand and said softly, "Thank you. I will treasure this always." Elena realized that this day had been a turning point. She was still nervous, still unsure about the future, but she had experienced moments of connection that gave her hope. The little girl had shown her the first signs of acceptance, and in return, Elena had found the courage to open her heart. As she prepared for bed that night, Elena reflected on the day. She thought about how difficult it had been to leave her family behind and start over in a new country. She thought about the loneliness she had felt when she first arrived and the small victories she had experienced today. Each smile, each word, each shared laugh had built a bridge, one that she hoped would become a strong foundation for their life together. Elena realized that being a part of this family would require patience, love, and understanding. She would have to navigate the little girl's fears, her own doubts, and the challenges of blending into a new culture. But she also understood that every step forward, no matter how small, was worth it. She felt a quiet determination to keep trying, to keep showing care and affection, and to earn the trust and love of the child who was slowly beginning to let her in. Before drifting off to sleep, Elena whispered to herself, "Tomorrow is another day, another chance to show love, to build trust, to become part of this family." She smiled softly, feeling a sense of peace she had not known since leaving her home country. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time it felt like it could also be filled with hope, laughter, and warmth. In the quiet of the night, Elena thought about the little moments that had made a difference. The hesitant handshake, the shared pancake laughter, the storytime smiles. She understood that family was built through these small, seemingly ordinary experiences, and she felt a deep gratitude for being given the chance to be part of this story. And as sleep finally came, Elena dreamed of a future where trust, love, and understanding would grow between her and the little girl who had already started to change her life in ways she had never imagined. The days turned into weeks, and Elena slowly began to feel more at home in the small house. Each morning she would wake up with a mix of nervousness and excitement, wondering what the day would bring. The little girl, Lily, was still shy in the mornings, often peeking from behind the door to see if Elena was awake. But gradually she began to greet Elena with small smiles, and sometimes even words. Elena learned that building trust took patience. Some days were harder than others. There were moments when Lily would run away or hide, and Elena felt the familiar pang of doubt in her heart. She worried that she would never truly belong, that her efforts might never be enough. But she reminded herself that love wasn't about instant acceptance. It was about showing care consistently, even when it wasn't returned immediately. One Saturday morning, Elena decided to take Lily to the local park. She wanted to create a memory, a moment that would help the little girl see her not as a stranger, but as someone who genuinely cared. Lily hesitated when she saw the swings and slides, glancing nervously at the other children. Elena knelt beside her and took her hand gently. "It's okay," she said softly. "We can just play together. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for." Lily slowly nodded, letting Elena lead her to the swings. At first, she sat quietly, gripping the chains tightly, afraid of moving too fast. Elena pushed gently, encouraging her with soft words and smiles. "You're doing great. Higher, if you like. Don't worry, I'm right here." Gradually, Lily's fear melted, replaced by a shy giggle. Elena felt a surge of joy. This simple swing ride was a victory. a tiny step toward breaking the wall of caution around Lily's heart. After the swings, they wandered to the sandbox. Elena brought a small set of buckets and shovels from home, and together they built a castle. Lily laughed when the sand fell on her hands, and Elena laughed along with her. For a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear. There was no fear, no doubt, just two people sharing time, slowly learning to trust each other. When they returned home, Lily wanted to show her father what they had done. Michael smiled proudly, seeing the spark of connection growing between his daughter and Elena. "Looks like you two had fun," he said. Lily nodded eagerly, holding on to Elena's hand a little longer than usual. That evening, Elena felt a warm satisfaction settle in her chest. She realized that relationships were not built by grand gestures, but by consistent small acts of love and patience. As the weeks passed, Elena's role in the household became more natural. She helped with meals, tidied the rooms, and even started organizing small surprises for Lily. One day, she baked cookies and left a note that said, "Just for you." When Lily found it, her face lit up with delight. She ran to Elena, hugged her tightly, and whispered, "Thank you." In that moment, Elena felt a wave of belonging she had never felt before. The little girl's acceptance was no longer hesitant. It was genuine, a reflection of trust slowly built over time. School days were another challenge. Lily often had homework to complete, and Elena offered to help. At first, Lily resisted, not wanting to accept help from someone new. But Elena was patient, sitting quietly beside her, guiding her through the questions with gentle explanations and encouragement. Slowly, Lily began to see Elena not as an outsider, but as a supportive presence in her life. When she finished a difficult assignment successfully, she looked at Elena with pride in her eyes, whispering, "I did it." Elena smiled and replied, "Yes, you did. I'm so proud of you." These small victories, repeated day after day, strengthened their bond in ways Elena had only dreamed of when she first arrived. One afternoon, as rain poured outside, the three of them sat inside, listening to the sound of raindrops tapping against the windows. Elena suggested they make a small craft together. Lily eagerly agreed, and soon they were cutting, pasting, and painting little decorations. Michael watched quietly from the couch, smiling at the scene. Elena noticed that Lily was opening up more than ever before, asking questions, offering ideas, and even laughing at mistakes. The walls of shyness and fear were gradually giving way to curiosity and trust. Elena began to notice small changes in herself as well. She felt more confident in her role as part of the family. She laughed more freely, worried less, and allowed herself to enjoy the simple joys of daily life. She realized that love was not only about giving, but also about receiving. It was about allowing herself to feel joy and connection even when the past still tugged at her heart. There were challenges, of course. Sometimes Lily would throw small tantrums or retreat into silence. Other times, Elena felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of stepping into a role she had never imagined for herself. But she reminded herself that every parent, every caregiver faced these moments. She could not control everything, but she could remain consistent, kind, and patient. One evening, after a long day filled with laughter and learning, Elena found herself sitting beside Lily on her bed. The little girl rested her head on Elena's shoulder, whispering softly about a story she had read at school. Elena listened, her heart full of warmth and gratitude. In that moment, she realized that the bond they were building was real. Lily was no longer just a child she was trying to connect with. She was becoming a part of Elena's life in a way that felt permanent, meaningful, and deeply rewarding. Elena also noticed Michael's subtle gestures of trust and appreciation. He would check in on her quietly, smile when he saw her and Lily interacting, and occasionally leave small notes of encouragement. She understood that acceptance from both father and daughter was not instant. It had to be earned through consistent care and presence. But the small signs of approval and warmth reassured her that she was on the right path. The turning point came one quiet afternoon. Elena and Lily were sitting on the floor, sorting through a box of old photographs Michael had kept. Lily pointed to a picture of herself as a baby, smiling with her father. She looked at Elena and whispered, "I want you to be part of our pictures too." Elena's heart swelled. That simple sentence, spoken with genuine desire, was proof that their connection had grown beyond mere acquaintance. It was becoming love, trust, and family. Elena hugged Lily gently, feeling tears prick her eyes. "I would love that," she whispered back. In that moment, all the fear, all the doubt, all the uncertainty of the past weeks seemed to melt away. She realized that she had crossed a threshold, from being an outsider to becoming a part of something beautiful, fragile, and real. As evening turned to night, Elena reflected on the journey so far. She thought about the small victories, the swings at the park, the shared crafts, the laughter over cookies, the quiet bedtime whispers. Each moment had been a building block, shaping a bond that was growing stronger every day. Gold and death. She understood that family was not defined by blood alone, but by love, patience, and the courage to open one's heart. Before going to bed, Elena sat quietly by the window, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky. She thought about her life before, the decisions that had brought her here, and the challenges that still lay ahead. But for the first time, she felt a sense of peace. She was not just surviving in this new country. She was beginning to belong. And as she drifted off to sleep, Elena dreamed of a future filled with laughter, warmth, and trust. She imagined days of joy, shared adventures, and quiet moments of connection. She knew the road ahead would have obstacles, but she also knew that the bond she was building with Lily and the acceptance from Michael would help her navigate every challenge. Elena smiled softly in her dreams, feeling a deep gratitude for the little girl who had taught her patience, love, and the true meaning of family. She understood that this journey was not just about her. It was about creating a home, a space of trust and warmth, and building a life where love could flourish, one day at a time. Days passed slowly but steadily, each one blending into the next, filled with small moments of laughter, learning, and connection. Elena had begun to understand the rhythm of her new home. The mornings when Lily would wake with a hesitant smile, the afternoons filled with schoolwork, games, and crafts, and the evenings when the quiet moments together felt almost sacred. But despite the progress, there was still a small part of Elena's heart that trembled with uncertainty. She had come to care deeply for this little girl, yet she worried whether her love and efforts would ever be fully accepted. One rainy afternoon, the sky gray and heavy, Elena decided to create a special day indoors. She had noticed how much Lily loved stories and crafts, so she gathered coloring pencils, papers, and a few small figurines to build an imaginary story world. When she entered the living room, Lily was curled up on the couch with a blanket, staring out at the rain. Elena knelt beside her and asked softly, "Do you want to play a story game with me?" "Okay," she whispered. Elena smiled, relieved at the small sign of trust. She spread out the papers and pencils and began to create a little story with characters, asking Lily to add her own ideas. Slowly, the girls started to open up, suggesting names for the characters and little plot twists. They laughed together when the story took unexpected turns, and Elena felt a warmth in her chest that made all her earlier fears seem distant. As the day passed, they moved from one activity to another. drawing, building small castles with blocks, and reading short stories aloud. Lily's laughter became more natural, less cautious, and Elena noticed the little gestures of comfort that signaled trust, a hand held while coloring, a shy glance of approval, and the way Lily occasionally leaned close when she wanted to share something privately. In the quiet moments, Elena caught herself reflecting on how far they had come. She remembered the first day when Lily had peeked at her nervously from the doorway, hesitant to speak, hesitant to touch, hesitant to trust. And now, here they were, sitting side by side, fully engaged in shared creativity. The transformation was slow, but undeniable. Elena felt a swell of hope and gratitude. That evening, Michael returned home from work, his eyes lighting up when he saw the connection between the two. He observed quietly as they showed him the stories and crafts they had made. Lily's voice was animated, explaining the plots and characters with enthusiasm. Michael smiled warmly, clearly proud of both his daughter and Elena. Elena felt a deep sense of relief. She realized that Michael's silent approval was as important as Lily's trust. She was becoming a part of this family, and slowly it felt like she might belong. After dinner, Elena suggested they have a quiet moment together before bedtime. She led Lily to her room, tucked her into bed, and sat beside her. The little girl seemed unusually thoughtful that night, staring at the small lamp that cast a soft glow across the room. For a while there was silence, only the sound of raindrops tapping against the window. Finally, Lily spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Elena, can I ask you something?" Elena's heart skipped a beat. "Of course," she replied gently, leaning closer. Lily hesitated, twisting the edge of her blanket in her small hands. Can you be my mommy?" Elena froze. Her heart felt like it had stopped for a moment, overwhelmed by the simplicity and weight of the question. The words carried more than a request. They carried trust, longing, and a quiet plea for love and protection. Tears welled up in her eyes as she reached out and gently held Lily's hand. "Yes," Elena whispered, her voice trembling but full of warmth. "I can be your mommy." Lily's small face lit up with a shy smile, and she snuggled closer to Elena, resting her head against her shoulder. In that moment, all the fears and doubts that had haunted Elena since her arrival melted away. She realized that this little girl who had once been hesitant and shy had offered her the most precious gift: acceptance, trust, and love. For the rest of the evening, they stayed together in quiet contentment. Elena told Lily gentle stories, holding her hand, and Lily responded with smiles and soft giggles. The bond between them felt unbreakable, a connection that went beyond words. Elena understood that the journey had been long and filled with small, challenging steps, but every moment had been worth it. As days passed after that night, the dynamic in the house shifted beautifully. Lily became more openly affectionate, often seeking Elena's hand or sharing small whispers about her day. She began to trust not only Elena's presence, but also her guidance, leaning on her for comfort when she felt uncertain or scared. Elena, in turn, felt a deep responsibility and joy in nurturing the little girl, understanding that motherhood was not defined by biology, but by love, care, and unwavering support. Elena also noticed subtle changes in herself. She laughed more freely, finding joy in simple moments like cooking together, walking to the park, or reading bedtime stories. She had learned patience and resilience, discovering that nurturing another person required selflessness, empathy, and the willingness to remain calm, even in difficult moments. The house, which had once felt unfamiliar and intimidating, began to feel like a home. a place where love, trust, and laughter filled the spaces that fear had once occupied. Michael, too, noticed the change. He watched as Elena and Lily shared jokes, told stories, and supported each other in small ways. He quietly expressed his gratitude, occasionally leaving little notes for Elena, telling her he appreciated her efforts. He saw the bond growing between his daughter and Elena and felt a sense of relief that the woman he had brought into his home was truly becoming part of their family. One sunny afternoon, Elena and Lily were sitting in the garden, planting small flowers in colorful pots. Lily carefully scooped soil into the pots, while Elena gently guided her hands. "You're doing so well," Elena said softly. "These flowers will grow strong, just like our friendship." Lily looked up at her, her eyes shining. "Do you think they'll bloom soon?" Elena smiled. "Yes, if we take care of them, they will, and we'll watch them grow together." The metaphor was not lost on Elena. She realized that the bond she had been nurturing with Lily was much like these small plants. It required patience, care, and consistent attention. Every day, through small acts of love and trust, the connection grew stronger, more vibrant, and more resilient. That evening, as Elena tucked Lily into bed, the little girl whispered once again, "I'm glad you're my mommy." Elena's heart ached with joy. She kissed Lily's forehead gently and whispered, "I'm glad too. I love you." In the quiet of the night, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She thought about her fears of rejection, the lonely arrival, and the hesitant first interactions. She understood now that every small step, every act of patience had led to this profound connection. She had crossed a threshold from being an outsider to being a trusted, loved, and essential part of a family. Elena realized that motherhood was not just about guiding and nurturing. It was about listening, understanding, and being present. It was about creating a space where a child could feel safe, valued, and loved. And in giving Lily this space, Elena had also found a sense of purpose, belonging, and fulfillment she had never imagined. As she finally lay down to sleep that night, Elena felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over her. She had faced her fears, nurtured trust, and discovered the profound power of love. The whispered words of a little girl had transformed her life, giving her hope, courage, and the knowledge that family was not about blood alone. It was about heart, devotion, and the willingness to open oneself fully to another. Elena closed her eyes with a soft smile, holding on to the quiet joy of the day, and dreaming of a future filled with laughter, warmth, and endless moments of love with the little girl who had whispered the words that changed everything. The days after Lily whispered, "Can you be my mommy?" felt like a new beginning for Elena. Each morning she woke with a sense of purpose she had never known before. No longer did she feel like a stranger in a foreign house. Instead, she felt a quiet, steady belonging. Lily's smiles were warmer, her laughter more frequent, and her trust in Elena had grown so strong that she sought her guidance and comfort without hesitation. Elena had come to understand the rhythm of life in this small home. She would wake early to help prepare breakfast, watching Lily carefully as she got ready for school. They shared small conversations over toast and cereal, sometimes about school, sometimes about dreams, and sometimes about nothing at all. Those ordinary mornings became extraordinary moments of connection, woven with quiet affection and a sense of family that Elena had once feared she would never experience. After school, their days were often filled with activities that helped their bond grow even stronger. Sometimes they would bake cookies together, laughter echoing through the kitchen as flour dusted their hands and faces. Other times they would play board games or build puzzles, the room filled with the soft sound of giggles and whispered strategy discussions. Every small interaction strengthened the thread of trust that had begun weeks earlier, when Lily had first peeked shyly at Elena from the doorway. Michael watched quietly, satisfied and reassured by the growing relationship between his daughter and Elena. He noticed the little gestures of love, the gentle hand on the shoulder, the shared stories before bedtime, the small notes left on Lily's desk with words of encouragement. He understood that family was not only about being together but about nurturing each other's hearts. Seeing Elena care for Lily with such patience and devotion made him grateful for the choice they had made, welcoming her into their home. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the window, Elena suggested a picnic in the backyard. Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement at the idea, and she eagerly helped to lay out a blanket and prepare simple snacks. They sat together under the warm sunlight, sharing sandwiches, fruit, and laughter. Elena noticed how comfortable Lily had become, not only around her but in her own home. She was beginning to see the world as a place of safety and love, and Elena felt a deep satisfaction in knowing she had helped create that space. As the seasons changed, Elena and Lily continued to grow closer. Autumn brought walks through colorful leaves, collecting small treasures like acorns and painted leaves. Winter meant cozy evenings by the fireplace, reading stories aloud, building small crafts and sipping warm chocolate. Spring brought flowers in the garden and long walks in the park. Through each passing season, Elena felt the deepening of their bond, a steady, beautiful connection built on patience, trust, and love. Lily's trust in Elena was not the only thing that grew. Elena's confidence in her role as a mother figure flourished as well. She found joy in guiding Lily through challenges, celebrating achievements, and offering comfort during moments of fear or sadness. She learned to read Lily's moods, anticipating when a gentle word or a playful distraction was needed. Each small act of care reinforced their connection, teaching Elena that motherhood was as much about presence and empathy as it was about guidance and instruction. One evening, Michael came home to find Elena and Lily decorating the house for a small birthday celebration. Balloons and handmade decorations were scattered around the living room, and Lily's laughter filled the air as she hung paper chains on the walls. Elena was kneeling beside her, helping her adjust the ribbons and encouraging her creativity. Michael stood quietly, smiling, and realized that Elena had become a central part of their family, not by force, but by the love and attention she had shown. The first time Elena called herself Mommy in response to Lily's whispered question, she felt a surge of emotion that she had never anticipated. It was a moment that symbolized not only the acceptance of the little girl, but also Elena's own transformation. She had arrived in a strange country, uncertain of her place, fearful of rejection, and now she was fully embraced as a beloved part of a family. She had learned that love could overcome hesitation, trust could replace fear, and small acts of care could create a bond stronger than blood. School events became another way for their bond to shine. Elena attended Lily's school plays, parent-teacher meetings, and weekend activities. She cheered for her daughter during sports events, helped with school projects, and listened patiently to stories about friends and teachers. Lily's confidence grew as she realized she had a consistent, loving figure by her side, someone who encouraged her and celebrated her successes. Elena, in turn, found joy in witnessing Lily's growth, knowing that her presence had made a difference in the little girl's life. The household became a warm, lively place where love and laughter were constant companions. Even the simplest routines, cooking dinner, reading bedtime stories, or taking walks, were filled with shared experiences that strengthened the family's connection. Elena had transformed from a nervous, unsure newcomer into a loving, confident caregiver who understood the power of patience, empathy, and presence. One quiet afternoon, Elena found herself sitting on the porch with Lily. The little girl leaned against her, talking softly about her day at school. Elena listened, nodding and responding with gentle encouragement. At that moment, Elena realized that family was not only about being together in the same space. It was about sharing hearts, emotions, and experiences. She understood that trust, once earned, became the foundation for love that could weather any storm. Michael often joined them during these quiet moments, and together, the three of them shared laughter, conversations, and small adventures. They went on weekend trips, explored nearby parks, and celebrated milestones together. Each shared experience further strengthened their bond, creating memories that would last a lifetime. Elena felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that she had become an integral part of this family's story. Elena also noticed how Lily had grown in confidence, joy, and kindness. She was more willing to share her thoughts, express her feelings, and connect with others. Elena knew that this transformation was not only due to time, but also the care, consistency, and love she had provided. She felt proud of the little girl and deeply grateful for the opportunity to nurture and guide her. One evening, as the family gathered for a quiet dinner, Lily reached across the table and held Elena's hand. "I'm glad you're my mommy," she said softly. Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled warmly and squeezed Lily's hand. "I'm glad too," she whispered. "I love you so much." In the days and weeks that followed, their family continued to thrive. Elena's presence brought stability, warmth, and love. Lily's laughter became a constant sound in the house, and Michael's quiet appreciation reminded Elena that she had truly become a part of their lives. Together, they celebrated birthdays, holidays, and ordinary days alike, creating a life filled with joy, trust, and belonging. Elena often reflected on her journey, the fear, the uncertainty, and the loneliness she had felt upon arrival. She remembered the hesitant glances, the cautious interactions, and the small victories that had led to this deep connection. She realized that every challenge had been worth it. Every moment of patience and care had mattered, and every small act of love had contributed to the family they had become. As she tucked Lily into bed one night, Elena felt a deep sense of peace. She kissed the little girl on the forehead and whispered, "Sleep well, my sweet girl. Mommy loves you." Lily hugged her tightly and whispered back, "I love you too." Elena left the room quietly, smiling to herself. She knew that life would continue to have challenges, but she also knew that the bond they had built could face anything. She had found her place, her purpose, and her family. She had discovered that love, trust, and patience could transform not only the life of a little girl, but her own life as well. In the quiet of the night, Elena reflected on the journey she had taken, from stepping off the plane with uncertainty to becoming a beloved part of a family. She realized that family was not about where you came from or the circumstances of birth. It was about love, care, and the willingness to open one's heart. She had learned that connection could overcome fear, and trust could replace doubt, creating a home filled with warmth, laughter, and hope. Elena smiled softly, feeling the quiet joy of belonging, and she drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the many days to come. Days of laughter, of shared stories, of small victories and quiet moments. Days in which love would continue to grow, bonds would deepen, and their family would thrive together. She knew that the whispered words of a little girl, "Can you be my mommy?" had changed everything. They had transformed fear into love, hesitation into trust, and strangers into a family bound not by blood, but by heart. And in that transformation, Elena had found her home, her purpose, and the kind of happiness she had always dreamed of.